How do you build a mobile startup, especially if you're a creative? Today we welcome back SocialStay CEO Seth Epstein. He's going to talk about how he did it, and we review 3 sites on Sink or Swim with Ari. Stick around and watch his work. Welcome to episodio número 40. Yay, everybody.
Big
Yay,
4-0.
Big 4-0.
Yeah.
Yes. 2 years earlier than my 40th birthday.
Is that over the hill?
We're over the hill. We're officially middle-aged. My name is Jose Kevler. I'm your host and Chief Creative Officer of digital agency The Group. You know what? F it. I'm changing my title. I'm co-founder, CEO, and Chief Digital Educator.
Whoa,
Change that lower third right here.
No,
I like it better. I'm tired of saying I'm Chief Creative Officer. Today's a special episode. I want to get right into it, so welcome, Ari.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. Next, welcome, Seth. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you for being back.
Yeah, thank you.
Mobile is a really big topic. We get asked about it all the time.
All the time.
Hey, can you talk about mobile? Hey, can you talk about mobile? Can you talk about mobile? You've been working with Seth to design SocialStay,
right?
And today we're going to talk about that. We were originally going to do Scrum training, but we're going to do that next week. So if you're tuning in and you're saying, hey, what the hell happened to Tony Wong? We're going to do it next week with our development team. So I want to, before I introduce Seth and talking about mobile, I want to talk about launch, the mobile iPad conference, which is coming up. And Ari, you're going to be there.
Yep.
Signing autographs. And how does this 13-inch computer work? Pretty good.
So
can you bring launch up actually on your computer? Since you designed it.
Launch.is.
And go to the, here we go, I found
and then it's the tablet conference.
Conference.
Got it. Where is it?
It's in Mountain View.
Mountain View.
So there's less than 10 tickets left if you guys want to go. Ari has it up on his desktop.
It's this Friday?
This Friday.
This Friday.
One day.
Okay. And what's going to be covered?
It looks like Ryan Block from GT is going to open it up.
Jeez.
You're going to have all the top both pundits and CEOs of companies.
Phone guy.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh, cool. That'd be cool to see.
Accelerator. Whoops.
Phone Gap, Accelerator,
Yep.
Bing, Condition 1,
Yep.
No,
Sencha.
Transcendent Man, The Lion King. A lot of people. Evernote.
Cool.
So it's going to be a pretty star-studded group of
It's
people.
one day. Is it all day?
One day.
All day Friday.
I think so. I was planning on being there, but Ari and one of our producers, Shin, who you've seen on the show before, is going to be there. Unfortunately, I have to be presenting to an awesome client, and we're working on some really cool stuff, so I can't make it.
Ari, let me know how that is.
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to think if I can make it, but I don't know.
Just fly up in your helicopter. You know, the SocialStay.
I didn't know I had a helicopter. I do now.
Awesome. You do now.
Sweet. You want to ride?
Yeah, dude.
You guys are going to be like, huh?
Jose will loan you out his extra.
I was going to say, the benefits of being on this show are extraordinary.
Helicopters for everyone.
You're on the show.
Like
You
Oprah.
gotta,
Helicopter.
I love you, Jose.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, so let's get serious now. So, in group school, we'll talk about it at the end. It's right here, the dates. Don't miss it. You would really be missing out. We have somebody flying in from Australia, potentially.
Yes. No,
Wow.
not even potentially. I believe it's happening.
Australia, thank you so much for coming to group
Represent.
school all the way and representing. So, Seth, I'm going to do the very bad introduction version, and then I'll let you kind of go more into detail. We met 10 years ago when I was a creative director or design director of Racerfish LA's digital. You had just been acquired by Racerfish with Fuel, which was a motion graphics company you founded that you then sold to Racerfish. Recently, a few years ago, we started collaborating and working on digital. From that relationship, I found my calling and really been dedicated to education very heavily since, and group school was a testament to that. So thank you, for that. I really appreciate that. But since you've started SocialStay, which I've been following a little bit because we've been showing here, and you were a guest before, and Ari has been showing me the progress. You're a creative. You're an entrepreneur. Your profile is you're almost the perfect storm of an entrepreneur. Good at sales, good at creative, good at good equal almost in all those things to some degree. But you did a mobile startup because you knew that was the future. First of all, why? Why SocialStay? How did you come up with the decision to say, hey, I'm going to do hospitality and mobile, and what was your decision-making process? And what makes you really qualified even to do a mobile startup, and how have you done it? And I'm going to shut up my computer for a second here. Go.
Working backwards, qualified, I would say that you don't really need any qualifications to do a startup, technically. I had some experience in digital. I would say my main qualification is I like phones. I mean, really, right? Hospitality is just something I've loved in terms of design, space, architecture, etc. So the choice to go into hospitality was really a little bit like how you choose maybe what school to go to, or college. Oh, that looks cool. I resonate with it, etc. And then in terms of why mobile versus, say, another platform, originally SocialStay was not going to be mobile. And what we did is we went and sat in the lobby of some hotels and just watched what happened, And at that time, which was probably about 2 years ago, it was starting to become extraordinarily clear that people weren't sitting in the lobby with their laptop. They were, but if you watched people's activity, it was clearly on the phone, and that was a big heads up. And sort of the fundamental insight is that when you're, the hotel phone, the phone in the room, right, in a hotel will disappear, right? And so that was the insight, one of the fundamental founding insights. The second insight was that fundamentally you come to a place that you resonate with and is also potentially has social dynamics to it. And so theoretically, if you're at a hotel, it could be a very social experience. What we've ended up finding out is that's not the natural state of the user, right? You really need to be an early adopter to be buying into that. So most people that stay in hotels aren't highly social with people around them. They don't want. It's the sort of their time out. And what we've learned recently, sort of taking it to current day, is that the problem that SocialStay solves for our clients, which are hotels, which are events, which are personalities, is that we engage users and we drive revenue. And so, for example, we just completed the Roosevelt Hollywood app. We're rolling out Sunset Marquee. We're running out Shangri-La in LA. But we also just built out an app for Victor Ortiz, the fighter. We're doing a few conference apps. We're doing music conferences. We're doing so anywhere people come together around a place or an idea is where SocialStay probably fits. And we'll talk more about later, but I'm going to make an offer on the show to people who are watching as well.
That's awesome. Very generous. It's almost like a congregation aspect.
Totally.
My church could use it.
It totally. In fact, that's the best way to describe it. Wherever people congregate spiritually, emotionally, physically around an idea or a place or a brand, the SocialStay platform was architected to make deploying an app within days, hours, possible. So we deploy apps that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop. We have a very sophisticated back-end system, content management system, and all of a sudden, in the case of the offer today, for $5,000, you've got an app that would cost you a few $100,000 to build, or maybe let's say $50,000 to build, or something like that.
Which is the average. We quote at an average of $40K for an app, and people ask, "Hey, why the hell does it cost $40K for an app? My cousin can do that for $200." It's really, we're not charging for the app, we're charging for the time. So if you divide 40,000 by $150 an hour, which is our blended rate, what do you get? You're good at math. I'm making that up.
Yeah, bust it out.
So in terms of the congregation, and it's interesting that you said that the social dynamics weren't as as what you thought they were originally. So that's an interesting idea that you move it forward in terms of a startup, and then you figure out what works. What were the things that you feel were probably the? I'll start with the biggest wins that you've had so far, like the things the insights and the breakthroughs that have occurred during the process of doing SocialStay, either for you personally or for the business. But give me an example of one of those things that you found. We're like, whoa, this is awesome.
Well, I think the most valuable insight I've gotten is that it doesn't matter how experienced you are as an entrepreneur or what your resume says or what companies you've sold, you still can't violate the fundamental law of entrepreneurship, which is you've got to solve a problem that people are willing to pay for. And if you don't do that, I don't care who you are and what your resume is, you're not going to be around. And I think that's something that has been a big, important thing for me, which is that you can do a lot of hand waving and structuring and stock and talk fancy and use lingo and, right? But when it comes down to it, if you don't provide something that people want and they're willing to pay for, then you got nothing. So I would say that's probably one of the big ones. And also another big insight that's been kind of a learning curve for me, being a designer and being a creative, is that this whole customer-driven development universe, right? Which is as a designer, you want it to look pretty before you show it to a customer. You know what I mean? And that's been one of the challenges I've had to learn, which is how do you get in front of the customer first
before.
And now here's the big insight recently. There's one thing for a customer if Ari was a customer and say, oh, I've got this really cool thing, and we want to like each other, so he's going to probably say yes.
Yeah.
Because I want him to say yes, so he's probably going to say yes. That's a false positive. The real answer is, would you pay for it, and will you cut me a check today for it?
Right. That's
the fundamental question. Like, there's a lot of people who go in to do a startup. I got this great idea, and I interviewed all these people, and they said we solved their problem, and okay, did you ask them how much they would pay or whether they cut you a check today? No. They said, like, when I get it up, come back and visit them.
Right.
Go back today and go, hey, will you pay me $5,000 for this? Will you pay me $100,000 for it? And if they don't or they do, that'll give you a good indication, really, on a black and white, clear, am I solving a real problem that they're willing to pay for? So I'd say not only you have to solve a problem, but you got to make sure they're willing to pay you for it.
That's a really great insight. Thank you for sharing that. And I've seen that because we've advised so many startups, and especially during the Web 2.0 boom, where people were like, just build a big audience, we'll figure out how to exit later.
Totally.
That ended, of course, and now we're in a much more tractionable. And something that I had up on this machine was the article from Mr. Calacanis. Damn it, the mouse on this thing ain't working, but about you have it on your
the 99%.
If you go to the 99%, the Occupy Wall Street on launch .is.
got it.
Well, you talked about last week or the week before we opened the show, talking about the issue of startups, and that he said in the article or in the blog post that basically that the real revolutionaries are people like Airbnb, et cetera, the startups. The reason why I'm pointing to that is that in order to help our audience of whether it's a freelancer, whether it's whether it's Robert Haydock, crowd tuner from up north, who's doing a startup in the video space, how do we get to a point to where we're no longer about the it? Creatives are about the craft of doing it and making it look great. Where now you need to really feel the relationship and the user-driven needs that then you need to say, hey, are they willing to pay it? So there's a shift and a transition to tools that creative people don't have to be visual people. We're talking about writers. We're talking about, Jason is a journalist by trade. He's qualifies as a creative, very much so, and an entrepreneur. So he's more similar to us than maybe a tech person, but techs and et cetera. The point I'm trying to get to is that process of customer development, of putting it out, even if it's not perfect, like I just mentioned before the show, the Slow Boat to China strategy for group school.
Yep.
I've been testing group school content and curriculum now since last summer, and putting it out, these workshops and seeing what people think. To good success, and how much are people willing to pay? I've seen how much people have been willing to pay for the workshops. Now in the new year, I'm going to start testing how much people are willing to pay for the online subscriptions. It's a fascinating process, but it's a very tactile one, meaning it is block and tackle, try, do, really quick iterations. Agile is important, and you work in Scrum, I think. So the same question, so the insights that you've had, now that I shared that, what have been the biggest challenges and breakdowns that you've seen, and how have you really overcome those?
I could probably talk for hours about
just one or two. I feel.
For this audience, I think the one that comes to mind as most pertinent is the challenge between creative and technology. We last night, Ross Hale, our CTO, and I had a very, I would say, heated conversation, which is unlike me, because
You're pretty mellow.
Generally. But we had a very heated conversation, and the conversation was related to, and a very productive conversation ultimately, but it was related to priorities, and priorities, who sets what priorities, right? What's important and what's not important. And the thing that I've really learned is that technologists, I'm going to use that phrase really broadly, including developers, CTOs, etc., are stabilizers as a rule of thumb. They want consistency, they want stability, and they have generally, again, I'm generalizing, they have a strong potential reaction to people like myself that are high innovators, have a very high innovation push. I'm very divergent, very comfortable with change, it's all part of what's working. For a developer or for a CTO, generally, it occurs like flailing, right? Yeah. And so in a way, the challenge is, as a creative, how do I communicate with developers, and how do I understand what their listening is, how they hear me, and how do I provide the right information, and how do I put myself over in their shoes and hear them out enough? Because if I don't hear out my developers properly and don't understand their real concerns, which are going to be different than mine, ultimately down the road, 3 weeks, 6 months, whatever it is, they're going to be resisting the path I want. And then what's going to happen is you're going to make a request for a design change that you feel is really important, and they're going to be like, I don't think we can get to it. We're too busy. It's going to throw us off track. And you're like, what? It's just a small change. So what happens is that happens, right? Yeah. And so that's the quagmire. And I think the hardest thing for creative for me was saying, okay, while I believe design is the most important thing in the universe, and my opinion matters more than anybody else's because we're all self-centric to some degree, the fact of the matter is when you're developing a complex platform as a leader or as a product manager, you've got to try to learn, really truly understand, not on a surface level, but really understand what your developers, how they operate, what their fundamental concerns are, the cycle of time they work in. If you interrupt, some developers who are doing paired programming, it's not a really particularly smart move, right? And you're like, I need this really quick. It's like, that's not going to happen that's not going to work out real well. So
fascinating.
That's really good. If I can share something, I remember when we did the first iteration of the app, we went off on a creative spree. Totally. You and I, crazy, and then the pieces didn't match when you tried to put the two together, right? It's like the technology and the
I'm in the middle of it, so I agree that if you talk to technologists, they're like, well, make the design work within the technology. You talk to a designer and go, hey, are you fucking crazy, right? And then you look at Steve Jobs and you go, all right, the guy is even more genius than I thought. Yeah. Because he pulled off, to me, what's difficult to do with the mobile application. The guy's building
devices and stuff.
Right. So it's a pretty extraordinary thing. I think that, I have a friend who works at Apple, and what she said was, Apple is run, this is her speaking off the top of her head, Apple is run by a bunch of creatives.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
So it was interesting to hear her say it. And I think it comes down to also the DNA of the company. Every company's different, and every company, I consider us a design-heavy company, SocialStay, and that's one of our distinguishing factors.
But here's what's interesting: a thesis that I proposed, and me and you worked on Evil Businessman, the origination idea for Group School, which is just dormant.
Which I still like the name. By the way, I just want to say, awesome. I think you should go Evil Businessman personally.
But keep in mind, Group School is going to be but a container for Evil Businessman and for all the other training when we start expanding across the board. Should I not give away the secrets? Okay.
Just a little bit.
Adandos, how are you? It's good to see you.
Hey, Adandos.
Good morning or good afternoon or whichever time zone it might be.
I don't know what it's going to be.
We're losing a little bit of the audience that now is used to us at 3 and at 3:30. We have a lot more Jason's audience. So let's talk about that very specifically, the issue of the design-driven, and what my thesis or hypothesis was for Evil Businessman is that creatives would own the future, that right-brainers would, and then how do we? What you just shared is awesome because it's right on the DNA of the Group School curriculum, and my whole, the DNA of my entire kind of thesis, which is that really ultimately is about language. What is the interest of the developer? What is the interest of the creative? I am a creative. And at some point, even in our relationship, where I was feeling a sense of doubt, not relative to you and I, but relative to my leadership abilities, because I felt more like Solomon than like Steve Jobs. I was mediating between the interest of the developers and the creatives. I actually hadn't seen the interest of the creative because I was the creative, but I was already very, how would you say, biased because I had been in the industry for so long. So the minute that I saw you in the mix and I saw the developers in the mix, and you begin seeing, and this is what happens between ad agencies and development firms, because the ad agencies the creatives see themselves as the ultimate power of God, and they might be making every mistake in the book. They do not care.
Blind spot.
They just say, do it this way, which we have done in some projects. And I said, we will do it. Note that the results aren't going to be positive. And lo and behold, then you need to, it leads to a breakdown, and then you have to fix it. The painful part for me is that I knew that it was going to break down. But what I know, and the point about my whole comment is that what I saw in my leadership through you and through the experiences that we were having as creative entrepreneurs is that if I could hear what their interests were, both of the developer, of the creative, of the marketing person, of the salesperson, whoever the different interests are, and I could have one neutral language, the user experience, customer development, basically.
Yep, that's right.
I don't give a fuck what you... Wait, did I just say that word? Beep. Leave that out. I don't give a fuck about what you think. Let's ask the customer.
Well, there's a problem with that, too.
You can't do both. That's a Steve Jobs conundrum.
Yeah.
Which is you can't ask the customer what they want because, like what Henry Ford says, they'll ask you for a faster horse.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be able to balance both, though. Like you come in with an idea.
I call it synthesizing.
There you go.
Right. So the skill, like if you're going to lead creative, technology, sales, marketing, you have to be able to synthesize. And you as the leader have to then be a partner or a proxy for the customer. Does that make sense? So you have to go out and speak to the customers and really hear them, not with your bias, but really hear them, and be able to then speak to the team not from leader ego standpoint, but from, okay guys, I want to share the insights we're having, and these insights, these requests, we're either going to honor these or we're not. And in a product development company, when you're developing a product, there's a different set of rules than if you're in a service-based company. If you're in a service-based company, then you listen to your customers, and generally you're going to deliver on about 90% of what their requests are. The 10% you're going to say, well, either it's not feasible for time, for money, or I have a different suggestion, or let me show you some options, right? So let's say that 10% is variable, right? But in a product development company, there's both gut, right, knowing what the customer is going to need before they need it, as well as making sure you're not asking the customer for what they want in terms of features. You're saying what are your problems?
What's their pain?
Exactly.
First? What is their need and their goal?
What is their pain? So if you can align the team on a product around the pain, and that we're solving that pain, you got a good game. If you're trying to act like I've talked to the customer, because I've done this and it doesn't work. I've talked to the customer. I've talked to 100 customers and I know what they want. The team goes, so what? Still doesn't work because it's me speaking as if I know what the customer wants. Like, you don't know shit. You're just a creative. But if I come in and I say, the problem we're solving is this, and they can see that we're actually truly solving the problem, then you have alignment. And that was literally last night was the whole conversation. And it was a long conversation.
You could have saved a lot of time and money if you came to group school, because that's what we teach.
I could have.
Yeah. But no, you need to learn it the way you learn it. So I like this T-shirt by Seth Epstein. If you know the pain, you got a good game.
Good deal. I like that.
It's like going to be like, bam, quote. If you know the pain, you got a good game.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So like I know part of the challenge also has been with some of these clients, making sure that the relationship is not a client kind of service company relationship. So how are you dealing with that these days with the...
So basically the question is, in a product company that is offering a productized...
You're basically not just servicing their... Right, like they're contacting you, like make all these changes, and you're like, wait a minute.
They can pay the group $50,000 to get their app, or they can pay SocialStay, to maintain and build all magnitude less, because of the platform.
I guess the reason I'm saying it is, and this has come up.
Good question.
And then this has come up a lot of times when we talk about, like, for example, Mobile Roadie, which is a competitor.
Yeah.
Like, they're not catering to every client's whims, right? They're just out there creating a great product, and then the clients are either on board or they're not.
Yeah, I mean, from my first of all, I'm a fan of Mobile Roadie. I think they do beautiful work.
Awesome, yeah.
I don't know. All I can say, I really don't know any of their inner workings, so I'm certainly not qualified. I can only kind of share what my perspective.
Call in and tell us.
That'd be great. I'd love to hear what they do about
Let's have Mobile Roadie.
I'm under the assumption that what they do is, you have a lot like a sports car company, right? So Lexus makes just came out with this new LFA or LXA or whatever it is. It's like a
something sexy that
$375,000 sports car. There's 500 made. It's carbon fiber. Nano.
In addition to the helicopter to get you to launch.
Right. Oh, that I like.
That's the other bonus.
It ejects out of the helicopter.
Oh, nice. It is a helicopter.
Out of the bag of the helicopter.
So the point being is that I call those Halo clients, and I actually think this is a really important thing for freelancers to hear, is that there's a falsity, which is if I land this client and I do it for free for them or I do it for cheap for them, they're going to refer me to a bunch of other great clients. And this goes back to your question as well, which is historically I found that the clients who are cheap refer me to cheap other clients because they hang out with other people like themselves. Yeah. So if you want to work with, if you find as a freelancer you're in a vicious circle of working with a particular kind of clients, it's because that you're potentially either charging too low or not showing the value. To Ari's question about how do we work with clients who want customization, who want all this stuff and want it for cheap, we've made a fundamental mistake with a huge branded client, huge name you watch on TV all the time, and they wanted an application, and they're like, oh, well, we've got to be on net 30 days, and we can't pay this much and can't pay, and they nickel and dimed us, and that should have been a huge red flag to me. And it has taken 3 weeks of our time, of Mallory's time, grinding it out on the phone with this client, and we've lost. I don't even know how much money we've lost on that thing because even though they're paying us, we're losing money because of the amount of hand holding. So to your point is that if you're going to hand hold and build features, charge very well for it,
right? And
charge well. From where to price our product is a whole different conversation, and where I've arrived at is if you're going to, for us, price it a little bit higher and focus on the value and what you provide, and that's where it fits for me. Is we're a very high design-minded company. We have features that other people don't have. I'd rather sell to 10% of the audience than the 90%. So I'd rather be a higher end.
The effort is less,
right? And that's just
Apple does it.
And for me to address your question, in a way I want to price myself high enough so that it actually eliminates people who are looking for the cheapest option, because I'd rather the people who are looking for the cheapest option go with the cheapest option,
right?
Because I'm not that. It's just not my DNA.
Right.
So that's interesting because that gives a lot of implications, and I want us to start showing the product a little bit if we can start bringing it up. When it comes to brand management and to product development, and it's something that I'm going through, as I develop Group School, but I go through also with my clients, especially the ones that are startups, is how do you position the brand in the marketplace? How do you ensure that you don't get the issue of if you go too low, you might cannibalize the brand? I haven't seen Apple try to release, an inexpensive version of the iPhone. It always keeps on being like more premium. And I'm looking out, and I was at the Valley the other day by the pet hospital, by our vet, and I looked in a little mini mall. I was just like scanning like that, and we're talking about, the Valley is actually pretty high income, actually comparative to maybe Middle America, but it looks Middle America to me since it's a strip mall, and I live in downtown LA. Every effing person had an iPhone. I'm not talking an Android device.
Yep.
I'm like, this is an $800 phone.
When you subsidize,
obviously with the 200 whatever it is from the thing. My brother sells his on eBay to the Russians, and they buy it unlocked for $800. That's how I found out that it was $800. So it's not really about the cost. It's really about
the value,
the positioning, and the value.
Totally. Well, there's a saying. There was an argument that we had internally, which was the phrase "the race to the bottom," and it's that saying that there's this illusion that if it's cheap enough, then the volume will be there. If we lower the price, if we price it right, then we're going to have the rush of 1 million billion people who want our product. And my perspective on it is that value is everything related to price. price does not drive adoption, value drives adoption. So meaning that if I have a bar of gold, right, it's a bar of gold, and we can talk about the value of it. And if I said, hey, it's $1, or whatever, it's a $10,000 bar of gold. If I was selling it to you for $5,000, you had a great deal, right? Because there's great value there, even though the bar of gold doesn't do anything except maybe hold my papers. So it's really about, especially for entrepreneurs, whether you're a freelancer, whether you're building a startup, whether you're making a product, whether you're doing a service, that's one of the hard things for creatives to do, is to value themselves and value their work and charge enough. And that's something that's like an experiment, is when you're asking for something. What I've done in the past is I say, okay, I'm going to ask for 10% more than I'm comfortable with. And I'm always surprised. People go, yeah. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask for 20% more than I'm comfortable with. And, I asked for 20% more. And I'm like, wow, they said, yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to,
that's crazy.
That's just an exercise for
that's really
freelancers,
good.
just to take on. And every time they go, okay, I charged $5,000 for that website before. I'm going to charge, I'm going to ask for $7,000 and see what happens. And then just creep your way up and find that ceiling where it belongs, because that's something. And then there's another bar that I created at Fuel, which was below which I will not work. Right? What's the number?
What's the number? Yeah.
Right. So for us, eventually at Fuel, the number was 25,000, and we violated that rule regularly. Right? We'd be like, oh, it's 15 grand. It won't take long. We'll do it. Yeah. But I would always say, okay, we're violating our commitment. So as an individual, maybe your baseline is 2,000 or 1,500, or as a company, maybe your baseline is 25,000, or as a development shop, maybe your baseline is. But that exercise is really about value and trying to value your own work, and that's something that we do with SocialStay in a startup. Like, are we providing? Do people see enough value? Are we selling applications? Are we selling value? And we don't sell applications. We solve a problem. And if you're solving a problem, you can charge a lot more than you can sell if you're selling a website, or if you're selling
how much value you're at.
So it's all about, that's where to come from, I think.
So it's a packaging issue. I think, to answer your question even more so, and even for me to grasp my head around it in terms of the positioning of SocialStay as a product, is that if you sell the entirety, the same way that at hospitality, I can stay at Motel 6, which does a great job, by the way, in packaging their services, or I can stay at the Four Seasons. At the Four Seasons, the room, let's say the rooms are commensurate and the beds are like about the same in terms of comfort and size.
Of which hotel?
Four Seasons versus Motel 6. I'm just saying.
Right. Hey. We'll roll with it.
We'll roll with it.
We fly helicopters?
Yeah, you roll with it.
We jump out of helicopters and cars.
Get into minivan, but,
does Hotel 6 have a helipad?
Motel 6, they do not, I don't think. But yeah, that's a problem. But my point is that the value not equaling price is that if the rooms are equal, the bed is equal, the overnight stay is what you need, that's a problem you're solving. Why the F do you get, an $800 room and then a $60 room? It's a packaging, and it's where it's located, and it's,
service.
There's a whole experience design, which is really a great kind of thing. If you're a freelancer, if you're a service company, it's not building a website. This is a mistake, and I'll face the camera and I'll talk to our audience, that you make. Okay, that's a bit accusatory. It's a mistake that I've made, to where I felt that I was.
Let's have a little confession from us.
It's a mistake that I've made.
Out of the room and give Isaiah a moment.
It's a mistake that I've made where I'm thinking I'm building a website for someone, but I'm not. What they're paying for is my advice and my aggregate experience to ensure that they don't fuck up the process.
I keep on saying about the handshake, the 3-week-long handshake that we went through. Is like, it's not about the actual thing you're making. It's about the relationship you're building. It's about the way you service the people. It's like, that's what we talked about, the discovery phase. Like, somebody could have just made this weekend in 3 weeks.
Right.
And that's a really good point, because next week we're going to be picking up the redesign of this weekend, and something that I also owe you, and this is a little separate, and people in the back channel are having the advantage of listening to me talk about these things very openly. I will not talk about it in front of the live audience unless, not because I want you to pay for it, that's aside from the point, but because it's a conversation that you want to have in private with friends or with somebody that you're mentoring in a very close setting. But you helped me make a transition, in my practice that it was required. It was time for me to make it, both from a maturity standpoint as a service provider, and that makes me sound like I'm a hooker, but that's not what I mean.
That would work. That provide value.
It's high price value. But
actually, it's a great example. It's all about pricing and value.
It's about pricing. All right, let's move the conversation somewhere else. But the point that I'm trying to get to is that recently I really came through this kind of process of I have to sell myself and the value that I provide in the most authentic level possible to the client for them to see no artifice and no surface of what we're offering. And I had this argument with Barrett where I said, I don't care if the client doesn't know that I'm not briefed when I'm walking into that. Truly, I want to know the information. I'm not putting on a show for the client. And working in Scrum allows for complete transparency. Like you walk in, you get briefed there, and you start doing the stuff there. It's very tactical, and it helps us creative people that are not necessarily as strategically minded as other people, but even though we are. But my point is this, that the value that I'm providing my clients needs to come across through me as explicitly and authentically as possible. And the concern that I think a lot of designers might have, and I've done in the past, undervaluing yourself obviously is one, but more importantly is like putting on some artifice of like your service and delivery.
Yeah, like I know this, but you really don't.
No, listen, here's what I know and here's what I'm going to offer you, and here's what's going to be great about you. Can I have permission, is a great trick, or not a trick, can I have permission to be completely transparent and honest about what's going to happen in our relationship? And you go, blah.
It's worse if you don't. Like I've seen.
And I'm not talking about like ranting or rambling, but very, very authentically say, here are the problems that we're going to have in the relationship. Here are the breakdowns that are going to occur in a project. I'm telling you now. And here's the reason why we're working in Scrum. And here's the reason why we're valuable, etc. And they might at first be uncomfortable with that, but in time, it's the best relationship you can form. Because you're just interacting between people. If you know the interests of the developers, I had the same issue you had. Like I have to negotiate with the client's developers what their interest is. So I said, look, what are your interests? Tell me, what are your fears? What are you concerned? Are you concerned that we're going to come in and fuck everything up? And the answer is yes. So if you don't know all those things and you're just designing a website, what I call dry humping it, you're already like pretty much a leg down on the relationship and on the process. So
well, I think the most important thing about what you said is complexity.
Yes.
Is you have to, I would say this to designers or companies or whoever's calling me right now, that the more complex a project, the more pregame discovery you need to do.
Yes.
The simpler the project, and the less complexity, the less pregame. Though you should have pregame. And so, if I were to translate what you said into sort of pregame for freelancers, the pregame for freelancers should be: is the customer or client crystal clear about what they want, what they want, what the time frame is, what the budget is, what the expectations are, what represents success, what represents excessive charges or excessive time, or where you're going to have to charge more. So, I mean, and also knowing your own, as an individual freelancer, knowing your tendencies. My tendency is to always give more and always do more and always go the extra mile. So, you've got to know, you've also got to know, like, there are clients that will either take advantage of that or unknowingly take advantage of that. So, I mean, the way I would say it is, like, the more complex a project is, the more pregame, the more visibility you want to have. The simpler the project, you still need it, but it's much less. Shorter, But I mean, I think that's the what you're sharing, the ability to say, here's what to expect. This is what it looks like. This is what it might sound like, and that's okay. Is very powerful, especially for web and digital projects.
Don't be afraid, because things are going to get messed up, and if you come in with the guise that everything is going to be peachy and perfect, and that it's going to be roses and dances in the grass, you're setting up an expectation already for something that is not going to be the case. The project is going to have a lot of moving parts and friction and complexity, and if you don't have that comfort level with the client to be messy and to like say, and you taught me this, look, just acknowledge that you messed up and fix it quickly and kind of keep on moving and iterating. If you don't have that comfort with the client, it's just going to be a really uncomfortable relationship.
Totally. It's a little bit like every relationship. It's like any relationship, and I think that the tool is, and where the the people I like to work with and where the companies I admire as an Apple, if they F up, they acknowledge it and they tell me what they're going to do to fix it, and they fix it.
Yeah.
And they get back on, they get back on with business, right?
Yeah.
And so the quicker you can acknowledge something going sideways, the better.
Totally.
So let's shift gears, because this is a really great conversation, and I would love to continue it. But let's shift gears and let's look at the product. I want to see where the product is at. This is something that's really been pretty awesome. And Ari and both of you guys can walk me through. So I'm a potential client. I'm a hotel. I'm fancy. I'm the Roosevelt. Like, what would you really do for me? Like, what's the value here?
So the way we define it, Jose, is we say we belong wherever there's
It's okay. You can show me on the monitor. I'll see.
Okay,
I'll see it.
cool.
So the way we describe hospitality is where people come together around a place or an idea.
I like that.
Or a brand. That's where SocialStay fits. So the name kind of says it all, right? So a place, an idea, or a brand, right, is where we fit. So we've just built apps, as I said. We're doing a few apps for conferences, for corporate meetings, for hotels. We just did one for Victor Ortiz, the boxer. We did one for a DJ. So those are all people with some sort of a fan base or potential fan base, or people coming together around something, right, like an idea. And so in the case of a hotel in particular, on a very macro level, what you have is an organization that isn't equipped to deal with mobile, because they don't have a guy sitting in the back office going, oh, let me deal with digital change. They don't. They've got maybe at best a social media manager in the best cases, and many do. So the problem on a very macro level is we remove the pain of having to figure out mobile, cross-platform mobile. We remove the pain of having to figure out what features work and don't work, because we can tell you, we know what works, we know what people click on, we know what is going to get the response. And so even though some hotels don't know exactly why they need it, once they engage with it and start using it, they go, God, we should have had this sooner. Why didn't we have this sooner? So it's a little bit like the web was in 97 or 98, where companies
it's the beginning of it.
It's the very beginning of it. And all you have to do is go into a shopping mall in the valley and look, everybody's got their phones. And so the way I describe it is that the problem SocialStay solves today is that we remove the suffering for our clients about having a robust mobile solution that's cross-platform. That's what we do today.
So let's look at Roosevelt.
Sure.
How does Roosevelt look? And it would be great at some point to even have some of the customers. So this is a Roosevelt.
So Roosevelt, the top row of icons, you can see there's activities, there's dine and drink, there's happenings, there's special offers. The bottom row is of maps, snapshot, services, and wall.
First of all, very nice looking.
Yeah, well
this is HTML5, correct?
This what you're looking.
It's an app, but the foundation of it is in HTML5.
Correct. We made a choice about 6 months ago where we completely threw out our code base and built a brand new code base that's HTML5 centric. So what we're able to do is we output a native iPhone app, we output a mobile web version, and we are able to wrap it as an Android version. We haven't released that yet.
So it's faster development for both iOS and for Android. Plus, in the future,
one code base.
Plus, in the future, you could even just do the web version of it in the same kind of platform.
Absolutely, we have clients.
That's smart. That's really smart.
Yeah. So
it looks really beautiful. So show me some of the features.
Sure.
For example, we're at the 43-minute mark.
All right, click.
We need to switch to Sink or Swim soon.
Got it. Go to Maps. So basically, if you're staying somewhere and you want to know what's around you, you can just actually, it realizes that we're not on a phone, so it won't have the awareness of where we are.
Gotcha.
The location base.
So we want to look at something else.
Look at the free events. So here's something that I have a problem with for myself. Some of the clients that we've had in the past. We service really high-end, French Laundry.
Yeah.
They don't have mobile. I go all the sites we built for them 6 years ago.
I want to refresh the whole thing because it's been sitting for.
Our Flash, and that's a really kind of a challenging issue. Meaning that, and if you show my computer, guys, on the IVGA or on the whatever it is, I'll show the French Laundry. Actually, I'll show Per Se in New York, which I got to figure out if. There we go. It's the first link. This is all Flash, but it's a very similar. And they asked me about mobile. And the biggest challenge is that they can't afford. Well, they don't want to pay the group to do a mobile version of their site, and it's all Flash and it's all fancy. So they would be a perfect customer for SocialStay. And again, we're going to be giving away a social. You're offering 5?
10.
10 free
Wow.
or $5,000 worth of.
Well,
what is it that you're offering?
Yeah, so for the first 10 people that contact us at SocialStay, go to socialstay.com. We will build out an app for $5,000 flat for an entire year, and you can see the features on the site. And if you go to like features on the back, and you can choose from any of those features. We'll custom design it for you. We'll help you put in the content. We'll help you sync up Facebook, Twitter, etc. And
it's a good looking site. So can you show the Roosevelt app now?
Sure,
we reloaded it again, and it's not running in its native environment, so you're running it on
it should
our
be
slow
fine.
connection here at the network. Go back, Ari, to showing the actual app itself. I want to have at a minimum
HTTP.
Got it.
This is my computer right now that we're showing the blog and the site itself.
Yeah, if you go to the features, Jose, that's actually good. You can just scroll down from there on the features once the phones load.
Hey, check it out. It's
Sarah Backhouse.
Sarah Backhouse.
So, right there, you've got push messaging that's built in, mapping that's built in, you've got events, so by day, by week, whatever you want to do. You got a wall which takes in feeds of Facebook, Twitter, or users' comments. You got food and drink. You've got a concierge section, which is quick dial. You've got who's here, which allows you to see, like at conferences, who else is there and direct message them. You've got social features built in, so you can share to Twitter or Facebook when you make a comment. You've got
you got a lot of
activities that you can. You've got video you can put. You got photos you can have.
Are they social? Are the photos people contributing? Like if I'm in the Dominican Republic at a resort?
The answer is today no, but it is actually
pictures you put up.
Users do not currently. We don't allow users to do it.
But I'm sorry. So I'll give you an example, a scenario, a story.
Per se, the restaurant, yes,
they put up pictures.
Yeah. Or say you're doing say you're like, what I want to spend. I want to have an app for my wedding, which is
That's actually a really good idea to use it. This is perfect for weddings because of the high-end design.
Where to go, what time things, and then push messaging. Push messaging keeps people up to date. So, for example, Shangri-La Hotel in Santa Monica, which that push message is from. They've used it very effectively to drive traffic and increase drink revenue in their bar,
which is a huge part of their business model. So if
which is
clear
great.
$20,000 a night in the bar on a weekend,
well, think of it this way: I've got guests; they're on site, and they're either going to spend their money either on site or off site. So if I can keep those guests on site and spending more money, increase the average customer spend, we've done our job. So that's what our value proposition is. That we fundamentally why. Does anybody need an app in hospitality is to drive more revenue. Why do I need an app as a celebrity, which is to drive more engagement? Why do I need an app as a restaurant, which would be drive more engagement, drive more loyalty, stay top of mind, brand recognition, and drive revenue?
This is perfect for Seth Moses at 213 Industries. I'll send him that clip specifically. He owns all the bars, or not all the bars in downtown. He owns all the big bars in downtown. So the Broadway Bar, Las Perlas, Golden Gopher, and they're all beautifully designed. He's not going to go in and build crappy apps. Now, he might have already apps, but that's a perfect kind of example. And they depend on getting every night to have a certain volume of people in order to make their revenue. They don't have that because of whatever reason. So this really kind of lubricates, to use an alcoholic pun, the people, hey, look, 213, Las Perlas is having a 2-for-1
And you can
special.
make a comment. So not only can they send out a push message to their fan or user base, but then users can actually comment on the wall and get to know each other if they employ some of the Who's Here features.
Right.
So you can, to somebody who doesn't really engage socially, it's a great utility. To somebody that does engage socially, it becomes like, wow, this helps me connect to my community.
One last thing, Ari, show me a few screens of the Roosevelt, which I actually like. It's a really great hotel.
I actually sent you I'm having a little bit of trouble pulling it up. Yeah.
So what you sent it to me via what?
Via Skype. Actually, it seems to be alive again. Cool.
Okay, go do it. Show it real quick and
events.
What I want to do is
for some reason it's not. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. There are the events. Yeah. We have them.
So do it. So show me a little bit of the app right here.
Sure. So just pick on any event, right? So you would then be able to see a picture associated with it and information related to it. You can have a call button at the top. So if you click contact, it'll bring up a call. So you can call them directly.
That's
if you
awesome.
hit If you hit location, it'll map it. I don't know if this will work because
I love that for churches. This is great. For
it's great. You can have.
I can use this for the group conference next year.
Totally.
I have to say, honestly, watching it, at least in terms of functionality, there's a lot that can be said for this weekend being able to run on something like this.
There you go.
Good idea.
Totally.
A network of 25 to 30 shows that's very socially active, that's trying to find a way to connect viewers
and
of different
engage.
shows.
Totally.
This is an incredible engine
You
for
should
that.
see the Victor Ortiz app. I'd encourage people to download it. We did it right before his fight with Mayweather, and it was incredible to see the engagement and the exchange on. And you would think, well, it would be on, people would do that on Facebook or they would do it on Twitter.
But it's nice to have a consolidated one place to be.
Where people want to come around an idea or topic, they maybe aren't not sophisticated. They just don't want to search for hashtags, which hashtag, and they want a place where they're getting the Twitter, the Facebook, and their own feed in one wall.
Yeah, you're curating the experience for one.
Exactly.
I can tell you as one place I've gone for the last 9 years, San Diego Comic-Con. This would be insane because there's so much communication going on, there's so much data, and I want to be able to personalize it, but I have to kind of manually curate between Twitter, Facebook, San Diego Comic-Con's app, my own phone contacts.
Exactly.
This would be amazing.
Let's switch to sink or swim, but something I want to say. First of all, thank you, Seth, and now we're going to actually review some sites for some of our users.
Let's take it all the way down to just horsepower calculators, by the way. Let's just do one sink or swim.
Okay, let's do one sink or swim, but the one thing I do want to go is go to SocialStay. If you're interested in the offer, again, if you're a brand like 213 or even the French Laundry or anyone, we have a pretty broad audience of kind of professional. This is a really great opportunity, and I want to say congratulations. I mean, as a creative to creative, taking a leap and doing such an amazing job at launching a company like SocialStay. I think you're in your second round of funding now. You're working towards that. You've done an amazing kind of effort to kind of launch the company. You're an inspiration for our audience, for the people who, like we said at the beginning, and we were talking about the 99%. This is a very rare time in history where you can really do that if you know how to. So to leave off and to leave the last 9 minutes, three things, your three rules, or three of your many rules, and I know that you're speaking at UCSB on November 3rd, is that right?
Yeah, John Greathouse, who is part of Rincon Ventures and teaches at UC Santa Barbara, is having me speak, I think at 5 o'clock November 3rd at UC Santa Barbara, to a group. And in that, I'm going to talk about how to build a company, basically, and take you through literally step by step how to build a company, and then as part of the technology management program.
So here's on my screen is the TMP lecture series.
Exactly.
Is that right? So if you look at tmp.ucsb.edu, you're going to get, or just Google Seth Epstein, speaking at November 3rd, right there, co-founder and CEO of SocialStay, talking about becoming an entrepreneur. That would be a great event to go if you're in the Santa Barbara area or if you're in LA and you want to go up there. So the three rules, 1, 2, 3, really quick, rapid fire.
Okay, 3 rules of being
a startup, being an entrepreneur,
okay,
as a creative.
Rule number 1, as a creative, wow.
Quickly, we have like 2 minutes.
All right, 2 minutes. Rule number 1 is you must solve a clear problem. You must solve a clear pain point and be 100% clear that people are willing to pay for it. There is no avoiding that.
So is that one rule?
Rule number 1. 1 is pain.
Pain and pay.
Pain and pay.
Rule number 2.
Rule number 2 is that you need to be you need to be quick and clear. So there's another 2 word.
Quick and clear.
Quick and clear. That if you can't either explain it quickly, you can't work quickly, you can't, etc. The other
Hesitation kills you.
Yeah, it does. And then the third, and adapt. You have to adapt a lot, So, and then finally, I would say is you have to synthesize. You've got to be able to, as an entrepreneur, if you're doing a startup, you need to be able to take in VC's opinions, angel money opinions. The man on the street's opinion, your customer's opinion, the designer's opinion, the CTO's opinion, your project manager's opinion, and you've got to synthesize it all down and let it settle at the bottom of the fishbowl, and at the end of the day, make a decision.
So here they are, ladies and gentlemen. If this is my graphics, 1, pain and pay. Number 2, quick, clear, and adapt. And number 3, Solomon. You have to be
all
like
in.
the king, you
Wow.
know, cut the baby in half.
Wow, I didn't.
Is that what you said?
I didn't say that, but I like that.
But no, that's what it is. You listen to everybody's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yes, you, great, and then you make a decision.
Okay,
That's
got it.
all.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
I didn't go for Moses, which would have been a lot less.
I like Moses. I
specific.
like Psalms.
So who is it that we're doing for Sink or Swim tonight? All right, let's do it. So bring up
got it.
horsepower
It's right
calculator.
here.
Let's see it.
So sink or swim.
Ouch.
We're finally bringing sink or swim back.
Okay, so Sink or Swim, the way this works is there's opinions of everyone on the show. We look at the site, we give 2 opinions on why it sinks or swim, and then we say the word sink or swim. Sometimes there's graphics, sometimes there's not, it doesn't matter. Ari, you start. Actually, you're our guest, Seth. What do you think of the design of this? Sink is like boo, swim
Well,
is
for
like...
design, I would say there's a few things that are working for it. I'm going to go first positive. One of the things I like about it is their call to action is on the bottom right. It follows where the studies have shown where your eye goes. I love that it's orange.
Yeah, I like that.
I love that it's orange. I would have preferred yellow, but I like orange. I love the languaging on it. I love the successfully helped right above it. I think that's great. I love the questions on the left in black, more power, which parts, is it safe? The buckets along the bottom, it's a lot of information, but I like the fact that it's below a hard line, so it clearly delineates without getting into fonts and liking the font and all that, which I don't. The only thing missing for me is if I found this site as a as a random user, I wouldn't be 100% clear on what they provide. Reach your power goals, I'm not sure. I'm guessing it's around cars because I see cars. So I'd want maybe a little bit more information. So usability, good. Design, amateur. But in effect, if it gets the job done, then in fact the design may be very effective.
That's fair.
Awesome, very fair.
I like that.
I'll let you go next, sorry.
I'm just going to focus on the negative because, that's just what I do.
All right.
I'm not crazy about the design and not crazy about the colors. And I would say, my biggest thing about it is what you said. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm not a car enthusiast or anything like that. So
you don't know what it is.
I don't know what I'm looking at, honestly.
And that's
who's it for?
Well, that's the question.
And what's the pain that you're solving?
I think the real issue is that this enthusiast audience, they may arrive here and already know what it is, and that's probably what the assumption is. But I really do think that they've done a few things really, really well. Is they've highlighted a few key problems. Is your problem that you want more power? Which parts do I need? And is it safe? So they've addressed objections. So I think it's very effective, and I think the Let's Get Started is great. And I also like the fact on the right side they've got live support.
Yeah, that's nice.
Design-wise, I don't like it. Functionality-wise, I'm going to say it swims.
So it's an issue. Okay, so it swims on the functionality, sinks on the design.
But that's personal opinion. So.
No, that's the whole point. So Ari, anything positive or no?
Anything positive? I mean, I would say I like these kind of black things here, like these bullet points. They're asking you some questions, trying to figure out why you're here.
You know what? Look at this, Jose. You're going to like on the bottom. Enthusiast, race shop, racer, fabricator, luxurious. It's like use cases.
It's a use cases, which is good. I think that that's actually a really great thing that they've done. I think that the challenge that this designer has, being an engineer or being a left-brainer, which I know because he's been watching the show for a while. So thank you for watching the show. And I'm going to say this with a lot of love. It's really an issue of translating the visual language of that particular area of expertise, racing and guys who are into
increasing
power and fast cars. There isn't a translation. Ari, how would you change this? What would you do to it?
Let
me stop
you right there.
Because that's one of the things that we're really happy about Sink or Swim is everybody's been asking for it. So as part of the initiative to give you guys more content, Ari and I actually spent about 15 minutes,
about 15
20
minutes or so.
And we created a new segment that's going to be separate from the show where we do a deep dive Sink or Swim, and you'll actually be able to see Ari redesign the entire thing.
So there's going to be an extra segment on YouTube, is that right?
It'll be on YouTube and it'll be on iTunes. It'll probably be there by the end of the day today, the same day of the episode.
So you can see Ari help our guest, the person who submitted. So if you submit your site for Sink or Swim, there is a small chance that you might actually have Ari redesign it for you. We've already had success with the site for
iPhone 4 parts.
iPhone 4 parts.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Ari didn't touch it.
Yeah,
they did it themselves.
They did it themselves.
No, I'm talking about the logo that we redid.
Oh, that's right. For
Sky Crew Media. There we go.
Yep.
So
we're going to redesign your site for free.
No, don't say that.
No, I'm
sorry. You might win the chance to get Ari to do the site for you. So submit the site.
The best way for our viewers, even if it's not your site, it's really beneficial because you get to see Ari work through. But the best way to be able to make sure you don't miss this stuff is please subscribe to YouTube. and
Yes.
subscribe to iTunes, because they will come in both of those feeds and you won't be able to miss them.
So let's talk about that. In the last 2 minutes, there's two things that I want to make sure you guys go to. One, if we can bring up if we have it. If not, that's okay. Here's everywhere you can reach us, and we need to do, this is like NPR. Please subscribe to us on Facebook, facebook.com/TWI Web Design. It makes a huge difference.
And
join us.
And we only have 1 hour left with a matching subscription fund.
There you go. You get a matching subscription.
That's right.
Twitter @thisweekendweb, or you can follow me personally, but follow the show. We want to increase our viewership. That helps us immensely with sponsorship and with a lot of things. So if you like the show, you're getting it for free. So following us is just like a small thing. Join us live and ask questions at justin.tv/thisweekend. That's really a really powerful way to follow us.
And we really don't push it enough, because we're really giving a lot of inside information. If you really want to support the show, and if you want to get more time with Jose and Ari, this weekend web design producer program has been really successful. Especially if you're interested in doing group school. Jose, you've had multiple people that are members actually show up to group school.
We're at I know that we need to wrap up because we have another segment that's being taped right after this, but I want you guys to look at what's on my screen, go to thisweekendwebdesign.com and actually go to thisweekend.com and learn about the producers program. Our producers have come in from Oregon, from a lot of different places.
We've got Australia coming up.
From Australia, we got coming up. People that are really engaged. So you met Seth today. You've met him before in a previous episode. Imagine getting the sage advice that you're getting if you join the producers program. Again, all the way the lowest level is $5, all the way to $100. If you join at the $100 a month, you personally get me to address and to give you all the templates and all the things that I've used to start the group. So you're basically saving yourself tons of time and money in order to really not make the same mistakes that I've made, in addition to getting to go to group school for free. So group school is $400 for the next one. You pay $600 for 6 months of the producers program. You pay for group school, and for another extra $100, you're getting my time, which is very precious and rare. I'll actually take people to coffee if they ask me, but they have to ask me. They have to be here in LA.
Jose, can I have coffee?
You are more than welcome to have coffee with me. Awesome. But you're one of my mentors, and I'm really glad to be able to share with other people. I'm going to spare. Can you edit the group school video to the end of this? So now we're going to play the group school video, and we're back. So you got both segments there. So I want to say thank you to everyone today. Also, thank Ryan for doing an awesome job producing the show.
Ryan.
The show, I think, I'm going to read a quote, one last tooting our own horn. I'm going to go a little bit less, 2 minutes only over. This is something that made me teary-eyed, which is so amazing about what the show is doing for people out there. One of our viewers who said in a comment here on Facebook, and let me find it, pet photos, here it is, from Dane Miller, who watches the show, and I see him on Twitter. P.S. Your latest episodes of the show are probably some of the best programming I have seen in video form in the past 4 years. Thank you so much for continuing and showing us that even creatives can learn how to get it done. And with that thought in mind, I'm going to leave you guys. Please join us next week and watch us work again.